This is a very special one where we are talking to a bunch of the founding members of the new RTS studio that was announced just yesterday, Frost Giant Studios.
But we are absolutely intending to build a game that will be on the market for a long time. We're looking at StarCraft 2's incredible length in the market or longer as really the target for us. And so that means that we're going to be supporting the game for many years to come after we launch it, and doing that in a variety of ways. We know that there's a lot of different types of players for RTS who play RTS for very different reasons. And that's a big part of our plans. We're consciously making decisions as we go to make sure that this is a game that can scratch all those itches for all those different types of players who are coming to RTS looking for different things.
There's not one thing you do to lower the skill floor. We actually spent a lot of time talking about what are the things that feel, shall we say, unpleasant about your first experience coming into RTS, and then your experience progressing from then to a level of being skillful.
We actually sat around and we said, what makes you rage about RTS? And why does it make you rage?
I've got a big list if you guys need it later. Let me know.
Please, yeah, send them. Because it's actually it's in part a human psychology thing. Like what triggers these human emotions. So I just we have a huge list, but I think there are so many opportunities to provide a better on-ramp to players that don't take away anything from the high skill nature. It just equips people to understand how to play the game sooner and hopefully with less angst and frustration.
We want to be actively getting ideas and thoughts and suggestions and challenges and everything that goes with it from the community. Please be vocal with us, because we're going to be listening to you guys. We're a small team, so we might not get a chance to respond all the time to everyone, but we're going to do our very best. But we're definitely on there just reading and listening, and please share your ideas with us, because our goal is to make this the best possible game for everyone. And that's going to come from just having the right ideas in place.
Enhancing the cooperative, campaign, and competitive gameplay. And those kind of are the three buckets that we see within StarCraft 2, for instance, right? We have campaign, which is like everyone plays campaign. And then like co-op is kind of that middle ground where people love that, whether they're competitive or non-competitive players. And then you have the competitive aspect of playing, ladder, playing matches against each other. Are those like the three buckets that you guys are focusing upon? So yeah, that's kind of my question. Is it those three buckets? Are there more to it? How do you look at that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Those three are definitely important to us. They're three of our main ones. I think it's important to add also custom games onto there, and the fact that we really believe in player-generated mods and maps. That kind of is a fourth category that I would add to that. And it's kind of hard to say, yeah, we have our focus is all these categories, but they are all fundamentally important to us for different reasons. And so if people are asking like, hey, is this only a competitive game, or is it only cooperative, or is it only, story based, or whatever it is, these are all categories that we're putting plans in place for. So these are things that we love about the RTS genre and about Blizzard RTS especially. Now, of course, we're a small team, so we have to kind of pick our sequence and pick our battles in terms of what things we tackle first. And for right now, our focus is on the core game, which the core moment-to-moment gameplay, getting units to feel right, and building out tech trees and figuring out what our setting is, and are we space Vikings or are we cowboys or what the heck is this game, right? Like, we're in the early stages. Yeah. But as we grow and the team expands, all four of those are really critical segments to us.
We want to build a game that feels very comfortable to StarCraft 2, Warcraft 3 players. So I think it's safe to say that those pillars that you identified, plus the fourth one of user-generated content, those will continue to be pillars for us. And as we go along and experiment, and maybe we come up with ideas that hopefully enhance that formula, and anything could happen, because it'll take us years to build this. But at least for now, what we're setting out with is really trying to stay true to that spirit. So we'll see what the future holds, but definitely we want the StarCraft 2 player base to feel very comfortable coming into what we build.
Honestly, custom, user-generated content is incredibly important just for helping sustain an RTS game, because RTS games really do devour content, as far as like, melee maps and things like that. So like, you really need to have tools in place to have the community help you to support the game. And this is not a team that is unaware of how valuable the community is. I mean, I came from the community. Kevin came from the community. We have other modders on the team. Like, this is a very community-focused team, and that a lot of us came from that community. So we definitely see the value in that content.
Right, if we could talk about like some ideas for the game itself. This is kind of the part that I'm personally most interested in. And I know it's very early on, so you don't have anything like in stone, obviously. But first off, I just got to ask straight up: 3 races, 4 races, a different type of way to look at that. Do you guys have like a preference? Obviously, you can't be decided until you actually have the game really starting to go along. But what are your guys' thoughts on like the amount of different playable factions or races or whatever we want to call that?
I'm just going to say that there is a vigorous debate amongst us right now. But this is a point that we honestly want to hear the community on.
Yeah.
And in the interest of at least giving a specific, direct, confirmed answer, we're not going to have 12. So
okay,
take
not
that
12.
Off the table. It's narrow.
So are
it
we
down.
saying 12
But
and more is out?
Yeah, 12 plus exactly.
Okay.
But 3 or 4, we're looking, like we've been talking about, in kind of the Blizzard vein for this sort of RTS, and we're trying to figure out what's best for our game. And it's a little hard to answer right at the start because we need to be fleshing out the design a little bit further and figure out how it hangs together and how all the parts support each other and whether 3 or 4 makes more sense. But there is a period here where we can definitely listen to the community, and we'd love to hear. We obviously love Blizzard RTS and are definitely inspired by Blizzard RTS, but we're also trying to make sure that we don't make anything too similar to their properties. And so we're trying to make our own thing and make sure that it's unique, and it is definitely Frost Giant. But what that is and how it's expressed is something that we're talking about actively right now.
So this is something where we're really going to invest a lot of effort in trying to achieve the same kind of richness and depth that players have gotten before. And I'm very conscious, as Tim Campbell just talked about, that we want to be distinctive. We want to provide a new experience. We don't want this to feel like something else rehashed. We want this to be exciting and new. But in terms of what the right decisions are to get there, like this is, it's very, very subjective process, and we're all trying to work through it as a team. And I know we keep beating this drum, but again, we are super interested to hear opinions. So don't hold back.
Chatting systems within RTS games. The original Brood War chatting system, the original Warcraft 3 chatting system, awesome, very social. Everyone has a bunch of friends. Everyone is just kind of disappointed in the way the chatting systems have evolved over time. It's kind of become almost a meme where it's like StarCraft 2 just doesn't feel as social. I don't chat with people ever when I'm logged into StarCraft 2, whereas the old days of StarCraft 1, it was just like part of the game. So how are you going to make this?
We are looking to build a game that it has a strong social component, and not in terms of it's a social game or anything like that, but we want people to be able to hang out with their friends playing this game, and we want them to be able to meet new people playing this game, and we want them to be able to have the social interactions between people and groups and all of that goodness, and make sure that that's facilitated within our game. So obviously we're starting out on the game itself, so I can't speak to the interface we're ultimately going to have or anything like that, but that is one of the things on our initial short list that we're wanting to express in the game, is just a stronger support for social amongst players.
Like, no question that we want to support grassroots in a meaningful way, and no question that we want to have a pro tier and have that financially work and financially make sense for everybody involved.
I don't think that there's necessarily a target pace that we're looking for right out the gate. Warcraft's slower pace was something that came naturally out of the design for that game, which included things like heroes and creeping and kind of all this other stuff, which took time, and the lower unit counts and all of that. It hung together like a spider web of interconnected design choices. So the pacing was the end result of a lot of design choices as opposed to the driving goal of that game. And I imagine that StarCraft 2's pacing came about similarly from the collection of design decisions they made along the way. But for me, what's really important is not necessarily the overall pacing of the game, but the moment to moment responsiveness. I want the feel of the game to be nice and quick and crisp and responsive, where you can be interacting with the game and the units and just having the game respond instantly to what you're doing. So at that level, like zooming into that microscopic level, I want the game to be fast. I want it to be super fast. Everything else, I think we're going to need to design the game a little bit more to find out what pacing is the natural fit for the overall game.
And I'd even like to pose a question back on this one, which is early on, when Void was coming out, we got some feedback that I didn't expect, which was we got some feedback from Korean players that changes that we had made in Void actually made it too fast. And I mean, you think about the level of skill in general in Korea, it wasn't feedback I expected to hear. And it actually differed a lot from feedback that we were hearing from Western players. And so we were sort of even trying to parse what were the right decisions to tune that. But I'd be curious to hear from players, and obviously now it's been years since Void's released, but is StarCraft 2 too fast? Do you feel like a slower pace would be desirable, or do you is it exactly right? Should it be even faster? I don't know. It's fascinating, and again, one of these subjective questions, but it's fascinating to hear prevailing opinions, which were so different at that point in time between Korea and Western players. It does feel like there's an opportunity to do more with team play than StarCraft 2 did, and what's the right format? Is that 2s, 3s, 4s, more, FFA style? But there's a lot of opportunity, I think, to provide a better experience there. So team play is definitely something we're thinking a lot about. At the same time, 1v1 is the essence today of StarCraft esports. So, how do we balance those two things? Because really, it takes a lot of effort to achieve greatness in a mode, and I think there are trade-offs that were made making 1v1 as great as it is in StarCraft 2 with respect to the other modes. I think going the other direction probably implies that there are trade-offs on 1v1. So there's a decision to make here. Like I think it wouldn't be realistic to say, oh, we're going to do them all great. We really do have to reach a conclusion here, but the only thing I think we can say for sure right now is that it feels like there's an opportunity to do better with teams.
Okay. Straight answers and everything. It was an amazing show. So thank you guys. I want to close out with where do you want people to go for Frost Giant Studios? Like, how do they contact you? Where do you want them to watch for community updates, to contact you, all those types of things?
Yeah, we referenced the Reddit a lot tonight, so I think that's or the subreddit a lot tonight. That's a great place for discussion to be visible to us. Kevin, any thoughts in terms of which social media is the best? It seems like Twitter is a strong choice there, but
yeah, we're definitely trying to keep our Twitter at least have a semblance of activity there. So definitely interact with us as Twitter as much as possible. And I'd also just like to add that I think at some point we will really have to leverage the community in a variety of ways, like even now per se. And one of the ways we might have to do it is, for example, you guys are so passionate about RTS, about us, about the company, about the future of RTS, that I think like, hey, maybe you guys might be open to filling out some surveys. I think if you guys all answer surveys about what we'd like to do in the future, I mean, most companies can only dream of getting that kind of data through market research, but we have you guys to rely upon.